Hey everyone, welcome back to the Let's Talk podcast with me and David, and this week we're going to be doing one of our favorite films of all time, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It came out in 1977, written and directed by Steven Spielberg, and is my second favorite Steven Spielberg film, only behind E.T. And David, where would you put this on your Steven Spielberg list?
Same as you, John. Number two.
Number two, but yours is behind Jaws, right?
Yes. I did. I wasn't going to actually say that.
I know you. I know
because
that.
I think everybody knows by now.
Yeah, you're a big Jaws guy. I know that. I mean, I get that why that's number one and Close Encounters is number two. But at least we can agree that Close Encounters is the second best of his movies. And came out the same year as Star Wars, which always fascinates me because John Williams did the score to this and Star Wars the same year.
Yes.
Personally, I think this is a better film than Star Wars.
I personally agree. Don't even think it's in the same conversation as Star Wars. Two completely different types of movies, but from a film standpoint, to me, there's no competition.
I mean, I know I love Star Wars, but this movie is just, there's so many more layers to it. And I mean, I don't blame people if they group them together because obviously this is a sci-fi movie as well. But this is more of also a family drama on top of that, where Star Wars is a straightforward sci-fi action film. You can even argue it's a Western in a way, but this one is definitely something that you get more emotionally invested in these characters, especially in Richard Dreyfuss's character. I think this is his best performance, in my opinion. I mean, I'm sure Jaws is number one for you, but for me, this is Richard Dreyfuss's defining character.
Just touching on Star Wars, because I don't want to take anything away from Star Wars. I understand the impact that Star Wars had on the populace and pop culture, and especially in American cinema. Not taking anything away from it. I just think, especially on retrospect, Close Encounters is a more mature movie. I think it's a more kind of, I don't want to say thinking man, to be kind of like trying to sound smarter than what I actually am, but it does make you think a lot more. For that reason alone, I think it's a superior movie. But in regards to Dreyfuss, yes, I love Richard Dreyfuss as Matt Hooper in Jaws, but I think his performance in this, how can you measure levels of performance? Yeah, he's outstanding in this movie, and this could possibly be the best performance of his career. Now, granted, there's some films I haven't seen of Richard Dreyfuss. I haven't seen The Goodbye Girl, which he won the Oscar for. I think came out in the same year.
I haven't seen The Goodbye Girl either, to be honest with you. So I can't comment either. And he did win the Academy Award for that.
Yeah, it was the same year, wasn't it? 1977?
I believe so. And the thing is with this movie is he was championing, like he wanted this movie. Like he would go by Steven Spielberg's office all the time. He would tell him like, oh, because they wanted Al Pacino. He's like, Al Pacino's not funny, or Robert De Niro's not funny. He can't do what I can do. Like he wanted this movie because he felt like this character needed somebody with like a childlike energy to it. And he didn't think that anyone else could do it. So Richard Dreyfuss was pushing for it. And it's crazy that actually he wouldn't have been Spielberg's first choice after they had a good relationship on Jaws, which is only a couple years before. So it's weird that that wouldn't be the first choice. Maybe the studio had some sort of involvement. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, I actually watched the special features after rewatching the movie again. It's a documentary on there which was done for its 20th anniversary, 1997, I think. Apparently, Spielberg had this idea for this movie even before he started making Jaws, and he was working on it while he was making Jaws, and he was talking about it while he was making Jaws, and that's what actually Richard Dreyfuss's interest in playing the part. And apparently, according to Spielberg says that Dreyfuss was the perfect person for the movie, but he couldn't see past Matt Hooper. He was like, Richard was there, and he was saying to him, you should pass me, and he was thinking, no, you're not right for it, because he was just thinking of him as Matt Hooper. And I believe, apparently, Dreyfuss says as well that he would say things like, Jack Nicholson's crazy.
Yeah.
I read years ago that apparently Spielberg actually wrote it for Jack Nicholson, but I haven't heard anything about that since. But he actually went to Steve McQueen, and Steve McQueen was gonna do the part at one stage.
I heard this, and then Steve McQueen couldn't cry on cue, I think was the reason why he couldn't do the role. Which you needed. Yeah. You needed that for two scenes. You needed the kitchen table scene, and then obviously the bathtub scene where he's very emotional. And that scene, actually, watching that scene, it makes me a little uncomfortable every time I watch it because, he's got the kid there yelling at him and how Terry Garr is treating him. I just feel like she's just not emotionally there, but we'll get to that in a second. But it's just the way Richard Dreyfuss plays this role is perfect. I don't think it's a flawless. I have one very big complaint I want to ask you about, and I guess we can go into that right now because the very end of this movie, he decides to get on the mothership and go with them. They chose him. My problem is that guy is a father to 3 kids, and he's leaving his family behind. And I'm not a father, so I don't really have any connection to that, so it wouldn't bother me.
Yeah.
But I know that I come from a divorced family. My father made it very clear he would not leave his kids. It was in my parents' divorce papers that my father and mother had to live within 15 miles of each other. So he would never leave his family and or his kids behind. I don't know how do you feel about that? I know you're a father.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I wouldn't do it. Just speaking about, sorry, Steve McQueen. Apparently, there was a scene at the end before when he sees the mothership where Roy Neary cries. And it turned out that was the eventually omitted from the script anyway.
So the one scene that would have got Steve McQueen, he didn't even. They pulled it anyway. That's funny.
Yeah, but like you say, there's a scene in the shower, which is probably one of my favorite scenes in the movie. It's so absurd. It's so weird where she goes in and he's then in the shower.
With his clothes
on. Or in the bath, even with the shower on, in his clothes. And he says, Bernadette, I don't know what's happening to me. And I think you're saying about how she treats him, it is horrible, but I think this is a woman at the end of her wits. She's had enough of this nonsense. It's been going on and she doesn't know what's happened to her husband. And I think from their point of view is that family, there's problems with that family even before those aliens come on the scene.
Oh, yeah.
I think there's cracks already there. Maybe Roy Neary would have left her anyway. Maybe this was just a catalyst which pushed him towards leaving his family. But as a father, no, I would never dream of leaving a child. Definitely not. But in saying that, I mean, there's people out there that don't bother with their children. So I don't know what everybody's thinking.
Well, yeah. And I've read even that Steven Spielberg himself would have done something different with that because that was before he had kids. So
yes,
it was a little bit different. He's coming from a different position. His father, like you said, that marriage from the very beginning, it's falling apart. They're at the end. You know, they're trying to repair it. Like there's the scenes like with how Terry Garr even says the first night when this happens, and he drags them all out there to go see with him, and she says, "I think I'm taking it pretty well, don't you?" Like, you know, usually like she would overreact to those situations to how he is because he's a child. He's not really a good husband. He's a decent father, I think, but he's not a good husband to her at all.
Well, she is trying to understand him, you know, where he's coming from. She's kind of, even though she probably doesn't fully believe him, but when they're on that road and they start kissing, before that she says, I remember when we used to come out and kiss the guests just to look at each other. You know, it's like her reminiscing. It's like her saying, you know, I want that. I want you to notice me, you know, like you used to. Yeah, he doesn't see it because he's too busy looking up at the stars in the sky.
Yeah.
So I think even if the aliens came on the scene, I mean, that family wasn't in a good place. Like, that's no excuse for him getting on an alien spacecraft at the end and leaving his kids behind because, like yourself there, John, talk about your own personal life. You know, even if they got divorced, he could have still been a father and he could have still been involved in his kids' lives. But Spielberg says himself, I just finished watching the special features. His final thoughts was that he couldn't make Close Encounters now, like he did back in the late 70s. And he says as well that that's the one movie he thinks actually beats him more than any other movie he's ever made, because he says that as a father himself, that he couldn't imagine leaving his kids.
And I get that. Like, that was very much of a place and time in his life. But it's also a very personal movie for him because he does come from a broken home, a divorced father. I saw the Spielberg documentary. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's on HBO. And he was talking about the kid in the bathtub, that bathtub scene where the kid's like calling him a crybaby. And he said that was him to his father when he was a kid, when he saw his father getting emotional. And he didn't understand because it's like the breakdown of seeing your hero. And then we've all been there. Like when your father finally, like, you see your father now as a human. You don't want to, you look at your father as a kid, as your hero. But when you see the cracks and that your father's emotional too, and he's a human being, that you don't know how to react to it. And he said that was him seeing his father like that.
Spielberg definitely, his whole background, his whole upbringing is in his movies. Like, when I was watching this, like, for example, from a cinematography point of view, I think that the fingerprints of E.T. and Poltergeist, even though he apparently didn't direct it,
feels like a Spielberg movie.
Well, that's debatable whether or not Spielberg directed that. Maybe that's for another podcast. But even parts of Raiders, the fingerprints for them movies are all over this. The cinematography ways, how he actually the shadows and use the shadows in the light and the scary parts in it, that will come across very supernatural. It's aliens. From the point of view of the family, I think that his whole upbringing and his whole personal life is stamped all over this movie as well. Like you say, the broken home, and then you've got E.T., which is basically about divorce. But of course, then you have Portuguese, which is a perfect family, which has something happen to them. They have to band together to try and get the wee girl back. And it even to me as well goes back to Jaws. You can see some of this in Jaws as well, with the family in Jaws. A strong father figure, which he might have seen his own father at that particular time as being a strong father figure because of what happened between him and his mother. But then you have Close Encounters, where you have a weak father figure. And then you have E.T., where there is no father figure. And then you go back to Poltergeist with the strong father figure in that movie as well. But talking about the light and the shadows, if you look at the Ben Gardner scene in Jaws, that scene there, because it's a different type of movie and it's a different tone, you couldn't have made Jaws like Close Encounters or E.T. or anything. But that one scene, you can see right there what eventually would become like Close Encounters, using the shadows and the light. And then obviously he uses it again in E.T. and then Portuguese as well has a lot of those kind of influences.
Yeah, and honestly, that's speaking right to me. Like I told you, E.T. is my favorite Spielberg, but Poltergeist is either my first or second favorite horror film of all time. And it feels very similar to this. You're right. Like, this is where you could see this movie led to E.T. It's very similar in the cinematography. It's very similar even in tone. Like, E.T. is more of a kid movie in a sense, a little bit. Like, obviously now, but it's dealing with aliens. There's just now, and friendly aliens at that, which is something that Spielberg definitely, I think, was the first person to do that, because there's other movies that kind of have safer aliens, but where the aliens are friendly. Even though they're not kind of portrayed like they're gonna be friendly, we don't really find out till the very end that they are. But the way that he shoots the movie, it makes it feel like a more lighthearted tone, in the sense, like, with like there's certain aspects, but it's still scary. There's still scary stuff going on in this movie, and it's all kind of just in the way it's shot. But like how you were talking about, like with the divorce and how he likes to put himself in his movies, that's absolutely true in here, and in E.T. especially. Looking at it from, in E.T. when they're at the dinner table and he makes the mom cry when she finds out that his father is with another woman, and she's over here taking care of their kids.
In Mexico.
Yeah, in Mexico, and she just breaks down crying, and the elder brother's like, "Why would you do that?" Like, that actually, that rings very true. Like I told you, my parents were divorced, and I remember moments like that, but because my parents separated, I was 4 years old, so I pretty much only don't really even remember them married. The divorce does have an effect on both parents in different ways, and the way he shows that on screen and how it affected him for the rest of his life. I always find it strange that in all of Spielberg's movies, how he loves to talk about like parents getting divorced and how the effect it had on him. I didn't have a negative effect from my parents being divorced. At least I don't think so. Maybe there's some deep down that I don't know, but I thought it was for the best. From what I understand, they didn't get along well.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen The Fabelmans. I think I seen that documentary which you were talking about. In that documentary, I was actually very surprised how kind of like open he was about his personal life and his parents. And there was things there that I didn't even know from reading some of the books that I read on Spielberg, or even the documentaries that I actually watched on Spielberg previous to that one. That I think it's an HBO one.
Yeah.
But he actually thought that his father was cheating on his mother, and he had a bad relationship with his father for many, many years, for like 20 years. And then he eventually found out that it wasn't. It was actually his mum was having an affair on his dad.
Yep.
And that's what changed his whole perspective, or whole relationship with his family, supposedly. It wasn't until the late 80s, early 90s he kind of resolved that. So, Close Encounters and E.T. So, apparently E.T. is basically a sequel to Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He had this idea that at the end, when Richard Dreyfuss goes on the spaceship at the end, what if one of the aliens stayed behind and lived with a family? And that was the nucleus of the E.T.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And basically, yeah, it's the reverse story. And these ships are, it looks like one of the smaller ships, actually, in E.T., that were one of the smaller ships in this movie. So it's very believable. Obviously, different alien creatures, very different design, but you could definitely see that. I also think E.T., and in this version, the difference is E.T. is looking at divorce more from the child's perspective. Most of E.T. is from the child's perspective. That's why they shoot it like from the waist down. Every adult, you only see it from the waist down. Like Peter Coyote's character, Keys, like you only ever really see those keys flopping around until like the very end of the movie. But like this movie is definitely more from the father's perspective of divorce, and I guess a little bit of Terry Garr's perspective. You get a little understanding of like her character, because yeah, I understand why she loses it on him, because if my husband was taking all the plants out of the garden and throwing them through the window and taking the chicken wire of our neighbor's fence, yeah, we're going to my sister's house because you're having a mental breakdown.
Yeah, I love that scene when he gets up and starts kind of like ripping the garden up. But it starts off where that's the night after when he's in the shower or in the bath.
Yeah, he wakes up when he thinks like of a moment of clarity now.
Yeah, he's like, that's it, and it's over. He actually says, what does he say there? He says something along the lines of, everything's going to be okay now. And he starts putting the pictures down, the UFO pictures, and crumbling them up. And when he sees, I think it's Devil's Tower on the TV,
yeah,
that's when he decides to start building it in the living room. And even she's kind of a bit kind of regretful. She's like, "Oh, I'm sorry about last night." Yeah, he starts throwing all the stuff into the house to build the Devil's Tower. But there's a bit in that scene that actually makes me cringe, because one of the kids puts his hand into the wheelbarrow, and Richard Jacobs fires the shovel into the wheelbarrow, and he must misses the kid's fingers by about that much. And I always think, if he had hit them fingers, they were gone.
Yo, yeah.
Richard, don't you movie. I'm always waiting on him saying, "Move your hands, kid." But he doesn't. He just swings the shovel in anyway. And when she actually gets in the car and says, "I'm taking the kids to my sister's," he's like, "You're not even dressed. Are you crazy?"
I know. And she's like, and she literally turns to him and she's like, "What?" Like, she can't even like wrap her head. Like, I'm crazy. Like, you're not even dressed. Like, are you kidding me? Like, the whole neighborhood's out looking at you right now.
It's crazy. You're not even dressed.
What?
Exactly.
Like, he's just so out of touch. But then again, it's crazy because he's right, and it's just nobody else can see that. It's just that we know it as the viewer, but their whole family doesn't understand. The one kid's he's loving it because he's like, "Oh, we're bringing all the garbage inside. Awesome."
Yeah, and I love when they actually go to see the government agents, the military, and she's sitting there above with the big sunglasses, Mama, trying to hide her face, sitting together.
Yeah, I know. She's just so mad.
She's so embarrassed.
Yeah, because all she cares about is how she's perceived, and that's why she gets like, when he loses his job. I mean, that scene is honestly, the way she says that, she's like, "You've been fired. They don't even want to talk to you," and like her reaction actually like hurts me, because I understand, like, she's like just thinking about the family and how they're going to be perceived and how they're going to make money, and he just can't get this out of his head. And we know why, because that scene in the car when the alien ship first goes by him, he's waving it by, and then the lights go out. Like, if that happened, nothing's going to stop you from trying to explore that. I totally understand that, especially since they basically send this subliminal message to him. So of course he can't get it out of his head. So we can relate, looking at it from her perspective. If that was my spouse, I couldn't move past that either. I'd be like, "What is wrong with you?"
Yeah, he's losing his mind. He's going crazy. And like you say, they put this subliminal message into his brain that they want him. And I believe other people, I mean, it's not just him, there's other people that they want to meet at Devil's Tower, and they're sending messages to him to come to that tower so they can take them away. I like how half his face gets sunburned.
Yeah.
When he puts it out the car window. It always makes me laugh. So he's trying to figure this out. He doesn't know what it is. This message is not as clear as a phone call or if somebody sending you a photograph and saying, "Like, meet me here." It's in his brain somewhere. He just can't work it out. And that's what he's trying to do. And he's seeing this shape everywhere. He sees it on the shaving foam. He sees it on the potatoes, but he doesn't know what it is until he sees it on the TV. And then he starts, for some reason, building it in his living room.
Yeah, I have no idea why he did it in his living room. He could have easily built that outside. But I love that, actually. Yeah, like you said, and we even know that what's her name's character, the girl who loses her son, she has the pictures on her wall that she was drawing and he was sculpting. I love it because later in the movie he's like, "Well, this is why you should sculpt," because that's how he's able to find that little passageway.
He's like, once you get up to the top, there's a 300-foot drop on the other side. However, there's a path that will bring us around. And Hank, she says, "I never seen that in any of my drawings."
Yeah.
And he says, "Next time, try sculpturing."
Yeah, exactly. Because he's like, "I have a full 3D view of this. I know exactly what this looks like.
I know exactly where everything is."
Yeah.
And I love, and this is a a missing movie for me, John. This is a movie that I want them to make. See the guy that actually tags along with them
Oh,
and
Larry?
goes up the mountain with them,
Yeah,
Larry, and
yeah,
he ends up getting knocked out with a gas. I
yeah.
want to see his story. I want to know what happened to him.
Well, yeah, like exactly because like they're really the only last. Richard Dreyfuss is just the one that made it because they all line up. The army basically picked their guys that they thought were going to go up, but the aliens didn't want them. Dreyfuss was the only one that actually made it. If everyone else had made it, I guess they would have got the same offer to come with them. But,
Yeah.
he was the smartest one in the sense that he made the 3D thing and he was able to get around the government because the government obviously doesn't want any civilians around for this. But only person who does is Francis Truffaut, right? Is that how you pronounce his name? Truffaut, a very famous French director, the leader of the French New Wave, director of the 400 Blows. This is actually the only movie he ever appeared in that wasn't his movie. He just only came on to be an actor, which is always fascinating to me that he was able to work with Spielberg on this. And he's perfect. He's great in this. But at the very end, when Richard Dreyfuss is getting on the ship, he's jealous. He wishes that was him. Like, they invited you.
And it's kind of like, you just saying that, it's like Peter Coyote in E.T. when he says the alien, he chose you.
Yeah.
I wanted this.
Exactly. That's exactly
what... He chose you.
And I love that, actually, because it plays with our, expectations of, the government. Like, this guy, he really cares about the actual communication with the aliens. And it's the same thing with Peter Coyote. We think Peter Coyote is the villain. We always see him with the stuff on. But then we find out, they're good. They're well-intended. It's just, this is how they do it. This is protocol, unfortunately. And it's the same thing in this movie with that guy and his character. From the very beginning, we never really know what he's doing. He's working on this whole thing himself, putting it all together from the very beginning, which I love the opening scene to this movie. I don't know how you feel about it.
That training mission from the Naval Air Station at Fort Lauderdale. They were doing target runs on an old Hulk.
The opening scene in the desert where they find the airplanes from World War II.
Yeah, which is...
wondering why they're out there.
That's a true story.
It's a true story?
Yeah, you know that, right? Those planes that disappeared during World War II during a test flight from Fort Lauderdale, I believe. That really happened.
Really?
They never found those.
I didn't realize that.
I saw it on an episode of Unsolved Mysteries. That's how I put it together.
Right?
So I looked it up, and yeah, it really happened. They really went on a training mission, and they think I got lost in the Bermuda Triangle, and they never found those planes. So having them...
So that's the planes that they find at the start of Close Encounters. Now, I've heard stories about planes going missing, Bermuda Triangle, but I didn't realize that's what the reference was to the start of Close Encounters.
Yeah, those are supposed to be those pilots. Right. So at the very end, when they come off the ship, those are supposed to be those pilots that disappeared that no one ever found in real life. We never found those planes crashed or anything. They're just gone. So they were saying oh, okay, so that's why they never aged or anything like that.
And that's a very kind of fascinating aspect of this movie as well. When the doors open at the end and the people start coming out, and you see them, just the silhouettes, and you can tell from the silhouettes, these are people the last 100 years.
Yeah.
That have been abducted, because you can see the dresses that some of the women are wearing, and some of the clothes that the men are wearing. Some of them obviously are pilots that from those planes at the start of the movie. But it's the same with the ship they found in the desert. I think that's a real ship as well.
Yeah, it's all real stuff that disappeared, and they're trying to say, Steven Spielberg and the team putting their own twist on the writing of it. Oh, what if aliens took all that? That's why we never found them. So it's fascinating. I love that shot of the ship in the desert, no water around this big ship in the middle of the. I love that.
Yeah, how did it get there, Nick?
Yeah, what happened? And it's awesome. I love that stuff. I love all the stuff them investigating while they're trying to figure it out, while Richard Dreyfuss is trying to figure it out, having these two stories, and then eventually they all come together at the end.
Come together. Yeah. And that's one of my favorite scenes in the movie as well, is when they bring Richard Dreyfuss in, Francois Truffaut, and his interpreter. They bring Richard Dreyfuss in.
Brian Balaban, I think his name is.
What's his name? Sorry.
The guy's name is Bob Balaban. That's his interpreter.
Yeah, well, that's one of my favorite scenes. Probably my favorite scene in the whole movie is when they're in there asking questions, and Dreyfuss is just unbelievable. When he stands up and goes, who are you people? I want to speak to who's in charge, and all this. I love that scene.
Oh, I love that scene too.
Convincing.
Who are you people? I just love it. He's getting madder and madder, because he's starting to figure it out that they know what's going on. They're not telling him.
Yeah, but in the scene before it, he kind of just goes, he he's like, I don't know who you people are. And then they give him the photographs or something, ask him questions about, are you seeing this mountain or something or whatever? And he just kind of goes, who are you people? Like that, as if you know why I'm here type of thing, you know? But then when he starts to lose it, he says it again, who are you people?
Yeah, because they're fucking with him now. He knows exactly, like, they know what's going on. They're just giving him little bits of information. They're not telling him the whole story. I don't even know why at that point they don't let him go to that. Like, you know, just bring him. Like, what's the big deal? He seems trustworthy enough. Obviously, you know he has some sort of connection to what's going on. He could be helpful. So I'm very confused why they try and, you know, get him out of there with the rest of them, with Larry and, you know.
Yeah, maybe just typical government kind of politics. Kind of like, you know, we can't have any outsiders.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, they want to control the situation. You can't have anybody they can't trust. I know you're saying he's trustworthy, but maybe they don't know that.
That's true. I guess they don't realize to this point yet that the aliens are friendly either, so they have no idea.
Yeah, and like, true for what I think, does he see the three of them running up the mountain and doesn't say anything?
Yeah,
he doesn't tell them. He lets them go.
Yeah, he knows. He's the one that actually trusts them and everything and understands that these people were invited here. There's a reason why that they're all getting this message sent to them. Like, they're the only people, and they felt compelled to come here. There has to be a reason.
Yeah, exactly. And that's when he tries to kind of communicate that to the military, and they're just having none of it.
No, they don't want to hear it because, you know, they got bureaucratic bullshit going on. Like, they only care about what's going on, and I'm sure they're only looking at this whole thing from a financial standpoint.
And as you said earlier, which is what I wanted to touch on as well, is that you're right. This is probably the first movie where aliens come down and make contact, and they just want to be friends, make friends with people, rather than want to come down and exterminate people or kill people. And I think that is as well, which is remarkable about this movie. I think it was the first kind of like alien movie that said, you know, we can all be friends. We can all get along.
Yeah, seems like
a more optimistic.
Yeah, because I mean, if aliens are coming here, I don't think they're just going to come and destroy us. I would think that they want to maybe come here and try and have an understanding of us while we try and have an understanding of them. Hey, we know now that there's more of us out there. We can all exist and work together. Let's help each other out.
Unless they see us as a threat, then we'll have to be all exterminated.
Well, if they exactly like if you know we start shooting at them, they're going to get defensive, and from what I can tell, they can wipe us out pretty easily, seeing as how they have much better technology. That mothership is ridiculously huge.
Yeah, that's what I love too. When the wee small lights come in, and then they kind of communicate a wee bit with them, and they go away, and they all congratulate each other, and you think that's it. That's the show over. You know, they've made contact. But it's almost like they were scout spaceships just checking out to see if it was safe for the big one to come down. And then once it pretty much said, yes, it was safe, the big spaceship comes down. And then you've got that amazing kind of like back and forward between the Close Encounters tune with the spaceship.
Yeah, they did a phenomenal job with that, by the way. The way that they built, because they're building up to that the whole movie. With we hear that greeting the whole movie in like in different tones. And then once they, you know, like you said, like the three ships that we'd seen throughout the movie, once they disappear, now they're communicating full-fledged with this beautiful music score scene going on. I love that scene, how they're communicating with the lights and all the music and everything. It's amazing.
It is amazing, and that's one thing I absolutely love about this movie again, is the score. It's just one of those scores. Once I hear it, it just kind of gives me goosebumps, you know what I mean? It's just an amazing, amazing score. And I don't think, we talked about John Williams before, and I don't think that he gets enough credit for his score for Close Encounters. People always remember like Jaws and Star Wars, you know, and Superman and Raiders of the Lost Ark. And when they talk about Close Encounters, all they do is talk about the motif, which, you know, speaks to the aliens. But that whole score is absolutely amazing.
I 100% agree, especially during this whole scene, like when the aliens come off the ship and the orchestra is like building up. It's done so well. It is one of his best scores. It's very, very underrated. And it's just even this year, like we said earlier, like he did the Star Wars score this same year. So Star Wars, of course, overshadowed this film. I think they said the week this came out in theaters was the same time Star Wars overtook Jaws as the highest grossing film of all time. So it was going to get overshadowed anyway.
Yes, I heard that. And when you think about it, I'm near certain could be wrong. He was nominated for an Oscar for Star Wars, Star Wars and Close Encounters.
If that's true, that's awesome.
And near certain.
He deserves that.
Nothing going up against yourself, and he won it for Star Wars.
He definitely won for Star Wars because that year, 1977, this I know off the top of my head, is that Annie Hall won Best Picture. Star Wars was nominated for Best Picture. Close Encounters didn't even get a nomination.
That's ridiculous. Like,
it's mind-blowing. Have you ever seen Annie Hall?
I haven't seen Annie Hall, no.
Well, yeah, you know about, what's his name? Who's the director of that?
Woody Allen?
It's Woody Allen, yeah, and he stars in it. So, you know, Woody Allen, he's kind of persona non grata now. But the movie itself, it's all right. I don't think it's a special movie. I don't think it's some movie that has stood the test of time like Star Wars or Close Encounters had. I don't personally think it needed to win Best Picture. Diane Keaton's good in it as well, but nothing like too special in there, in my opinion.
Oh, well. La-di-da, la-di-da, la.
I think it's crazy that Star Wars gets a Best Picture nomination and Close Encounters doesn't.
I feel like this one got the Best Picture nomination just based on cultural impact at the time. You gotta remember, Star Wars took the world by storm in 1977. Yeah. Nothing was like Star Wars. It changed film forever. Not necessarily in the best way, but it definitely changed film forever. I think this is actually where the start of the 1980s comes in, is with Star Wars.
Yeah, well, I mean, we talked before about Jaws creating summer blockbuster. I think there was a couple of building blocks after that, and Star Wars took it to a new level because of the merchandise and stuff like that. Plus, it was kind of more accessible for families to go and see Star Wars, even younger children as well. So, I mean, that was very impactful and influential for very young children, whereas very young children watching this movie, I think they might lose their interest because it's more of a drama more than anything. You know, there's not very much action in the movie. But as you were saying about the scores there, like, I think the best part of winning scores at the very end when the credits are playing, funnily enough, is when you see that spaceship put up off into the sky, you see it just continue to go and go and go, and his music just keeps building and building and building. I think that for me, it's really weird because the film kind of builds up to this big reveal of the aliens, and it's almost like Williams' soundtrack builds to that as well.
Yeah, I listened to the score the other day actually when I was at work, and I find it does just build and build and build and build until the very end of the actual album, which is great. I loved it. It's definitely, like, the score itself works so well for the film because the whole film, just like the score, is just building. Yeah, we get that first act where we have one of the best scenes, obviously, with the truck and everything like that, and he's chasing down the ships, and the ships take off. But then the rest of the movie, up until the third act, it becomes a drama. It becomes a family drama in the second act, pretty much.
Yes.
And then it goes back to, like, finding the aliens. The only real connection we have to what the aliens are doing is everything with Francis Truffaut that's going on at that time. And other than that, it's just we're seeing Richard Dreyfuss falling apart in front of his family for the second act.
Losing his mind. And just on the score, did you notice the Jaws Easter egg?
In the score? I didn't pick up on it. Where was it?
So when the mothership comes down and they start playing the tune in the ship, and the ship starts playing it back, just right before the doors open, the mothership starts playing the da-dum.
I'm going to have to go back and now double check that. I guess I never...
And then it slowly fades. You hear them. And everybody's kind of like froze watching. Now, I don't think they're thinking it's Jaws, but they're wondering what's happening because it stopped kind of communicating back.
Yeah.
And then the doors just open.
That's funny. I know now. I know exactly. I just never thought of Jaws with that for some reason, but I guess it is kind of building up the tension. And you're right. And like Jaws, like, what is this going to be? What are we about to see?
It's the same notes, apparently. It's D and C or something, or it's C and E. I can't remember, but it's the same notes. Only it's played like differently. It's not played on a cow, played on something else.
Oh, that's awesome. And of course, that's a good Easter egg. And there's another little Easter egg when the mothership, I never noticed it, but apparently when the mothership is coming in, you could see like R2-D2 at the bottom of it somewhere.
That's right. Yeah, they've got R2-D2.
Yeah,
he's acting upside down.
Yeah.
He's glued to the mothership. Yeah, I've noticed it. I noticed it one time.
Which is funny because it comes out the same year as Star Wars, so him and George Lucas are buddies. It makes you wonder if Steven Spielberg had faith in Star Wars or what. Or he was taking a knock at him. I don't know what his thinking process, but I thought that's funny.
No, but do you know the story about Spielberg and Lucas when Star Wars was being released?
What story?
Did you read the story?
No. I mean, maybe.
So this was basically when they were in Hawaii and they were brainstorming Indiana Jones.
This I know, like when they're laying in the beach chairs talking about it.
Yeah. Well, they were waiting on Star Wars being released. And the reason they were in Hawaii was because George Lucas thought that Star Wars was going to be a failure and he needed to get away for a while, and Spielberg went with him.
I heard this story.
And he was worried about Star Wars, thought it was going to flop. And Spielberg was the only one of his friends that had faith in it. Spielberg, I think they all have seen it. It was like Brian De Palma and Martin Scorsese. And as a matter of fact, I think it was Brian De Palma that came up with the scroll at the start of Star Wars.
Yes, he did.
He was the one that gave him that idea, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Because he said people won't know what's going on. Give them like a crawl, not a scroll, a crawl at the start. Because you need to explain what's happening. Spielberg was the only one that had any faith in it. And when they were in Hawaii, George Lucas says, I think Close Encounters is going to blow people out of the water. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be the biggest film of the year. And Spielberg says, well, I actually think Star Wars is. So what they done was that Spielberg says, I'll tell you what I'll do. He says, if you think that, you give me your points on Star Wars and you can have my points on Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And George Lucas agreed.
Wow. Well, I guess that's why you don't ever go against Spielberg. Spielberg is a very, very underrated producer. I don't think people realize that. Like, despite being an amazing director, he has an eye for talent. Just think about all the other movies in the 80s that he put out that just have his name on it as a producer, like The Goonies and, Back to the Future. Like, the guy, besides just being a great filmmaker, he knows filmmakers and he knows their talent and what they're good at. So that doesn't surprise me.
Gremlins as well.
Oh, yeah, and he did Gremlins. They actually, the same set for Back to the Future and Gremlins is in there, just covered in snow.
Universal Studios.
Yep, just covered in snow this time. But people don't realize, look for the clock tower.
Yep, and he actually came up with the story of the Goonies as well. It's his story.
That's his story?
Yeah, he came up with the idea. He didn't write the screenplay. It was the guy that wrote Gremlins with the screenplay, Chris Columbus. I think he directed Home Alone.
Yes.
But it was Spielberg that says, I have this idea of like a lazy Saturday afternoon where it's kind of raining and these kids find a treasure map in the attic and they go searching for treasure and they find a pirate ship. And he wrote the screenplay. That was his idea, so he wrote the screenplay. And it's kind of like the same with E.T. So he had the idea for E.T., but he got somebody else to write the screenplay.
Huh, that's genius.
Yeah, and like you say, he had a nose for kind of like what people wanted to see. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think he had a better kind of sense of that when he was younger. What you said about Upper Jaws, like Close Encounters, not so much 1941, which not a big fan of that. But if you look at like Raiders, I don't know, him and Lucas came up with the idea and he brainstormed with them. But even the likes of like E.T. and then producing like Back to the Future and Gremlins and the Goonies and then Poltergeist as well, which was his story. That was Spielberg's story as well, with Poltergeist as well.
Yeah, that movie always feels so Spielbergian to me. Out of all the movies, Poltergeist literally feels like 1A, 1B, and it's weird. They came out the same month as E.T. Poltergeist.
I'm of the opinion he directed. I don't care what anybody says.
I know, and they will. There's so many conflicting reports, and it's just too hard to know for a fact. But when you watch the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and then when you watch Poltergeist, does that feel like the same director to you? It just doesn't.
No. I'm not even watching Salem's Lot. It still doesn't feel like Poltergeist. And I know that it's a TV movie, but I get what you're saying as well about Texas Chainsaw. Like I was saying about the fingerprints of Close Encounters being all over Poltergeist. The shadows and the light it's used and the family, and that's not just because he wrote it or helped write it or had the idea. That's placing the camera, that's cinematography, that's directing the actors, in my opinion. And
just production design. Like, look at the set design in Close Encounters and look at the set design in Poltergeist. Like, the houses in E.T., the houses, they all feel very lived in. They feel like real places that you would go and visit. Like, in Poltergeist, first of all, it's got Star Wars stuff all over the room. But, it feels like real places, and it feels like it feels very much like the way the camera's moving, like it would be moving in E.T. or in Close Encounters. It just does not feel like the Tobe Hooper movie to me. And I like Tobe Hooper. I like a lot of his movies. But all of his movies, Poltergeist feels like the one that just sticks out. It doesn't feel like a Tobe Hooper film. I mean, maybe he did shoot this stuff, but I feel like Spielberg was standing right next to him, in my opinion, if that's the case. Spielberg came out and said something like he did direct it, and then he had to retract his statement, give Tobe Hooper complete credit.
because he would have been sued, and plus it's not nice to do that anyway, if they have Toby Hooper as his director. But like, there's been cast members come out and said like, "Oh, Spielberg directed that movie," and then there's other cast members come out and say, "No, Toby Hooper directed it."
That's the problem.
I don't know, but the proof is as they say in the pudding.
Yeah.
Like if you were to sit down and watch Close Encounters and E.T. and then Poltergeist, and not tell the people who direct, and if you say if you threw Texas Chainsaw in there and said, right, out of all these movies, which is the odd one out, I'd probably say Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah, I just don't see it. I don't see it. And Toby Hooper, he did The Funhouse, he did Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, I think Life Force. Like he's a good director. It's just Poltergeist. I love Poltergeist. Like honestly, if we were to pull Poltergeist out and you put that in Spielberg's filmography, Poltergeist would probably be my number one, even over E.T. I love Poltergeist that much. It's a phenomenal film. I really believe that's because of Steven Spielberg. It's just, it captures a lot of that Spielberg magic in it.
As far as I'm aware as well, they filmed E.T. and Poltergeist around the same time, and they weren't too far away from each other. As a matter of fact, at one stage, he was going to cast Drew Barrymore in Heather O'Rourke's part.
That makes sense. And honestly, I'm not too sure. Maybe you can answer for this for me. But doesn't the houses in E.T. and Poltergeist feel very similar? Like they're in the same neighborhood? It feels like they filmed them in the same areas.
Yeah, they're not too far away from each other. The two areas aren't too far away. I don't know. Obviously, I'm not from there. I don't live there.
No.
I remember reading that like the neighborhoods are very, very close beside each other.
Yeah.
And there's actually photographs. If you go online, there's photographs of Steven Spielberg sitting with the kids from E.T. on one side and the kids from Poltergeist on the other side.
Oh, that's funny. I gotta find that picture. That's awesome. Because I've always felt like the Halloween scene in E.T. when they're out walking the streets. I'm like, this looks like the same streets in Poltergeist.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not from California either, so I don't know. But clearly, that's like somewhere in the California hills over there. So it's just always fascinated me that like that's Tobe Hooper's movie, but I'm like, it just feels too Spielbergian to me.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. It definitely has that touch. Some people can get very hotly contested about who directed what. It's just my point of view, it's just an opinion at the end of the day. If you were to ask me who directed that, I would say it's Steven Spielberg. I have no evidence, but he directed it, that's it.
I agree. And yeah. I remember last year when I did my Poltergeist review, I put it out and I said that it didn't feel like a Tobe Hooper movie to me at all. And I had people commenting, I'm like saying, well, watch this in the Funhouse and you'll see where Tobe Hooper's fingerprints are. And I did. And I'm like, I just don't see it. But I guess other people do. And I guess that's where all the confliction comes in. And the fact, like you said, you have actors saying, no, Spielberg directed, no, Tobe Hooper directed it. It's like, I guess we'll just never know for sure. And like you said, also, like Spielberg can't say he did because I guess like for legal obligations. So we'll never really get a definitive answer.
But he actually wanted to direct both originally. He was going to direct both of them. What? And he wasn't allowed. So it was something to do with the Actors Guild or maybe one studio against another studio because they're two separate studios. E.T. was Universal.
Yeah.
And Poltergeist is, MGM?
It's either MGM or Paramount. I don't know for sure.
Yeah. So there's some reason why. And when you think about it as well, John, we've talked about this before. Spielberg directed Jurassic Park and Schindler's List in the same year.
Yeah.
There's no reason why he couldn't have directed them two movies in the same year. So why was he casting both movies at the same time? Why was he scouting the same locations at the same, around the same area? He had every intention of directing both of them, and he wasn't allowed. So I think this was just to get round it, was to get somebody else in and then he would shadow direct. And as I've said, he can't admit it now because of legal reasons. And now Tobe Hooper's not with us anymore. It would probably be a real crappy thing to do, to come out and say, it was me.
Yeah, it would just be in bad taste. Like don't shit on another guy's grave. He's gone now, so.
Spielberg's got nothing to prove either.
No.
He's not like he needs it on his filmography, but I agree with you. Like you were saying there about the messages that you got, about people saying that, if you watch, Funhouse, you can see his fingerprints on it.
Yeah, I mean, Steven
Spielberg. At the end of the day, as we have been saying here, you could watch 10 Spielberg movies and more of his fingerprints is over Poltergeist than Tobe Hooper's.
Oh, 100%. Definitely. It doesn't feel like a Tobe Hooper movie to me, just in any way. It just feels all like Spielberg. Maybe Tobe Hooper was there. Maybe they contributed together, like they did some shots together. And that's what people see when they say they watch The Funhouse, then they watch Poltergeist. is that they could see certain shots that maybe Tobe Hooper helped contribute to Poltergeist, but everything else in that movie just feels like a Spielbergian movie to me, like just all the family aspects.
Definitely.
Which, you know, circles back to Close Encounter and all of its family aspects, because I do not remember where we were talking about Close Encounters that we got over here, to be honest.
Well, that's the thing too about Close Encounters. Look, for me, this is second favorite, or it's my second favorite movie of Spielberg's. For me, it's his second best. And to me, it's really strange because it does have all those Spielbergian touches, but in a lot of ways, it's kind of like the only movie that feels different from the rest. Does that make sense? It kind of feels like it's out on its own. What do you think about that?
What, that Close Encounters kind of feels like it's on its own? It does. It does in a way. It definitely feels very... How to put this? Like, it's similar to E.T., but it's very much its own entity because it has a lot of different moving pieces that kind of don't feel like there's aspects when I watch this movie where I think, especially like the desert shots, I'm like, okay, I could see that in Raiders where he pulled pieces from this movie. But this movie definitely feels like an original film to him. And I absolutely just love what he was going for with this movie and all the shots he took. The third act, the entire last 25 minutes of this movie just feels so unique and like something that's never been captured again, in my opinion, in film. Not just in his filmography, but in any film.
Yeah, and I think that's what I mean. I don't want to contradict myself because I think I've made a point about seeing the fingerprints of this movie on its next few movies. But I think the point I'm trying to make is that, like you say there, I don't think I've seen anything really like this before or since or as good as this. It's just, like you say, just so original, just on how it looks and how it feels. And when people talk about Steven Spielberg, they very rarely mention Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which I find really weird that they don't ever mention this. I mean, they'll go back and they'll mention Jaws, and then they'll mention Raiders, and they'll mention E.T., and they'll say Similar Resist from Jurassic Park and Steven Taylor Rand, but they very rarely mention Close Encounters. And I just think it's a very, very smart and mature movie as well. And I think that's probably part of the reason why.
Yeah, that's one thing I wanted to actually bring up is they really don't ever bring this movie up. And I don't understand why. Like, it's very popular. It was very popular. I mean, this movie made a ton of money when it first came out. It was successful. It had Academy Award nominations. I don't understand. Usually when they talk about Spielberg, they'll go from Jaws, and then they'll go right to Raiders and E.T. They'll skip right over this. Like, this will be like a footnote. Like, this will be like, oh, yeah, then he had success with Close Encounters, and then he had a failure with 1941. And then he went on to do Raiders. So it's weird how it almost gets roped in with 1941 for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like because it was overshadowed by Jaws and Star Wars then, obviously, overshadowed by Jaws on a director's point of view from Spielberg, even though it was a great success, but it never hit the heights of Jaws. But then it was overshadowed in 1977 by Star Wars. How big of a success that was. 2 sci-fi movies coming out in the same year.
Yeah.
And one just went through the roof, and the other one was a big success, but not to the heights of Star Wars. But you're right; it just never gets mentioned in the same breath as his other movies, and I don't understand that either.
Yeah, no, I just will never understand. I get the legacy. It must just be what you said, like with Star Wars, like the legacy. If this didn't come out in 1977, let's just say this came out maybe 2 years later in 1979 before Empire came out, maybe it would be more fondly remembered. But maybe that year, the fact that it came out with Star Wars, it just got so quickly forgotten that it's just a footnote in the 70s.
I wonder if it had come out like before Star Wars.
Maybe.
Would it have had more of an impact? The funny thing is you're saying there about people remembering movies and things like that. It's like the first time I seen Close Encounters, I was very young at the time. I don't know what age it was, 6 or 7, whatever. And I was off school sick, and I watched it with my mum. And that was the first time I watched it. And then she brought me into her work, and she told me a story many years later that I was actually describing to our work friends about Close Encounters. And I was telling them about the bit where the young boy gets taken away by the aliens. And I was really engrossed. I was really telling them this story. I was really into it, and they were really into it because I was telling them. And then I said about the mum screamed, but I screamed.
Really?
And apparently they all jumped. Scared the life of them.
That's funny.
It's really funny. When I was thinking about this the other night when I was watching the movie again, because when did you first see it and how did you feel about it? And I vaguely remember that being in our work and telling them our work friends that story. And it's really funny because, like, if I really deeply think about Jaws, I associated, I put in one of my podcasts with my father, right? And this movie here is kind of like the movie between me and my mum. And she probably doesn't know that. But the funny thing is, my mum's the type of person that she doesn't understand why anybody would watch a movie twice. She's kind of like, well, you've seen it, but why do you need to watch it again? She doesn't understand why I can sit and watch the same movie over and over again. And I tell her, well, we're different generations, right?
Yeah. Well,
But there's one movie that she's seen a few times, and it's Close Encounters. And anytime we talk about Steven Spielberg, she always brings up Close Encounters and says, I absolutely love that movie.
That's awesome. See, yeah, that's great because I don't have this. I have no connection to anybody else with this movie. If anything, I have more of a connection to you with this because you're the only other person I've ever talked to who actually appreciates this movie as much as me. Like my mom, she showed me E.T. She loves E.T. That's her favorite Spielberg movie, and it's not even close. Nobody I ever hear bring this up. That's why it was fascinating that you like this movie as much as I did. But it's nice that you get to have that with your mom because I saw this movie young. I rented this from Blockbuster and I didn't really come back to it until I bought it on DVD, which I think that's the DVD you actually might still have.
Yes, I have actually several of the first version of the DVD.
Oh, okay. I think that might be the one I have because I remember the pink. But it was a US release.
I actually bought that version for my mom because she had it on VHS. I remember watching the special edition on VHS. My brother bought it for her. He worked in the video store and he bought it for her. And then it was lent out to someone and we didn't get it back. She was raging, so I bought her this version of the DVD, but this is my own version. But then a few years later, I seen this edition.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And I just had to have it. So you see, it opens up.
Yeah, that's really nice.
And then this is like a steel thing that comes out.
That is cool.
This is the real collection. And then I've never actually watched this, but it's a DVD. I've seen it. I thought it was a really nice edition. Oh, and the discs are just on the inside. So it's the same discs.
Oh, they're nice discs, though.
Yeah.
I like the art.
And obviously, then I got I guess the 30th anniversary edition, but that's different than the ones I sent you photographs of the actual box set, but that's over there somewhere. So I bought these. That's why I'm saying I've seen like 4K editions come out, like box sets, and I didn't buy them. That's how much I love this film. Is like I have to have all these different editions, but I need to look into getting a 4K edition. It's just a beautiful movie. And the last few years, I've been really getting into the original Alien movie.
Love that.
Talking about sci-fi and alien movies. I really love the original Alien, and that's been creeping into the top 10 movies of all time. And for a while, I thought to myself, it could be my favorite Alien movie. But after watching this again the other night, no, this is still my favorite Alien movie.
I don't know what movie I like more, this or Alien. I love the original Alien movie so much. I just rewatched that a couple months ago also. And that I like. That's my favorite Alien movie in the franchise too. I mean, people love Aliens, but I think the original Alien is a classic. But I don't know. They're all very close. Alien, this, I don't know. E.T. I mean, E.T. would have to be number one just because I like that one a little bit more than this.
Yeah, no, I love E.T. Wouldn't be above Close Encounters, as you know. Be it number 3, I don't know. It may be at number 3. I'm not sure. But in regards to Alien, yeah, I think that when you're younger, I think and you're more want to see more action, Aliens is probably your favorite. But I think as you get older, you appreciate Alien more. You appreciate more the kind of the slow burn, the suspense, the drama between the characters. I think is a lot better than Aliens as well.
Yeah, I mean, Alien is also what I like about it. And they dive into it in Aliens, but on this one, especially on the original Alien, what I like is that they're all doing a job, and I like that I like the scenes where they're talking about the actual job and their shares and everything that they're gonna get. I think that's like stuff you don't appreciate that as a kid.
No, and I think as an adult you can relate to that more.
Yeah.
Like say there were 4 astronauts or 5 astronauts. Like not everybody can be an astronaut, right? If they're like, as I say, truckers in space, they're just guys out there, blue collar guys doing a job, wanting to get home. And they're complaining about their bonus. So I'm going to get the bonus. I think nearly every person in the world you can relate to that. It's kind of like, yeah, what happened in that situation? Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. We've all had jobs, and like this guy's getting more than me. Like without me, he wouldn't be able to even do his job. So it's pretty screwed up. He gets a full share and I don't. So I always appreciate that, and I think that's something I related to much more when I got older. And I'm like, and they're telling it in this sci-fi movie about an alien, and it eventually just evolves into a sci-fi horror film with just a guy, an alien hunting them down one by one, like Michael Myers in space almost.
Well, it's Jaws in space, really, isn't it?
Really, yeah, it's just Jaws in space. It pretty much.
It pretty much, I think that's how they actually sold it. That's how they originally sold it, Jaws in space. So you have Jaws, and then you've got Star Wars, and then they went, oh, well, let's make Alien. Jaws in space. But it's like, yes, you can relate to those characters then, so you can put yourself in their shoes, and then, because not everybody can go into space, and not everybody's going to see an alien, and, if you even believe they exist. But you can relate to ordinary working class everyday people, and you put yourself in their position, maybe dealing with like all the everyday rubbish that you maybe have to deal with when you're or whatever. And then, as you say, on top of that, then you got to deal with this problem where it becomes a life and death thing. Everything else becomes secondary then.
Yeah, exactly. It becomes this whole big thing with the with the alien hunting you down at the very end, but like you were just there to do a job and that was it. And honestly, if they would have just followed protocol from the very beginning, like Ridley wanted to, none of that would have even happened. But of course, that's what companies do, and we still deal with that to this day, is we can make money off of that, so he's coming on board.
Yeah. So, and then that goes over into Aliens as well.
Yep.
Which they bring that back in the Aliens again about the company wanting the alien and
that's why
trying to hide things and cover things up.
Yeah, that's why they try and make what's his name, Paul Reiser in that movie. Comes off so friendly, and then you don't realize until the end of it, nah, he's a piece of shit. That's actually why I'm so hesitant every time I see Paul Reiser in a movie, like he's in Stranger Things, and I think they probably did that on purpose actually, because it's 80s movie. Yeah, but like I keep waiting for him to turn and be a bad guy because of how he screwed me over in Aliens.
Yeah. Here, I think I meant to mention this last week in our Batman podcast. I think he would have made a brilliant Alexander Knox.
They're very similar actors, those two, and he definitely would have been. I mean, they actually think he would have been better than the guy who played Knox.
Yeah, probably. That's smarmy.
Yeah, that guy is. I only seen that guy in a couple things, but he's very recognizable. That and Bull Durham.
I actually started watching Tales from the Crypt a few months ago, and he was in an episode of that.
Really? And you're just thinking Knox, right away?
Oh yeah, 100%. He was in the episode with another very famous actor. Well, I can't even remember now.
I gotta rewatch. It's been a while since I watched any episodes of Tales from the Crypt. One thing we have to talk about on this podcast before we get out of here for sure is the fact that there's 3 editions of this film. There is the 1977 original, the 1980 special edition, and then there's the director's cut that came out in 1998, which was, I guess, done in 1997 for its 20th anniversary. And I think me and you both can agree we do not like seeing the mothership at the inside of it.
Yeah. Do you know what? I've been watching this movie on DVD. I actually think I had the VHS. I've still got the VHS. It's in the attic. I can't remember if that was the director's cut or the special edition. It's so long since I've watched the VHS, maybe over 20 years. But I've been watching this movie now on DVD for the last 20 years or so. And I can't remember the ending when he's inside the spaceship because I never pick it to watch. I think I've been watching the theatrical version more than anything. However, I actually just found out after watching the making of that scenes like Richard Dreyfuss in the shower isn't in the theatrical version. There's a few scenes that aren't in the theatrical version. It's the ship in the desert. It's, remember when Dreyfuss is driving and the shadow comes over the van before just after he has his first encounter with the aliens? Yeah. That's not in the theatrical version. And Dreyfuss in the shower isn't in the theatrical version.
Oh, wow. I did not know that. I mean, so the special edition director's cut came out in 1998. I've only seen the special edition once with the ship, but every version I've seen, so I guess I've never seen the theatrical cut because I've always seen it with the shower scene and I've always seen it with the shadow being cast over it and the ship in the desert. So I've definitely never seen the theatrical cut then, because this version has always pretty much existed since I've seen the movie, is the director's cut and the special edition, because the theatrical cut was only 3 years and then for some reason they wanted to make changes to it.
What actually happened was Columbia Pictures that actually release the movie. So they were in financial difficulties, and they were pushing for the movie to be released. I think it was like in the winter, November, December time of 1977, and Spielberg hadn't really finished the movie. There were scenes that he wanted to do or wanted to complete. Even some of the special effects and all wasn't completed to the standard that he wanted them to be completed to. But they were pushing them to release the movie because they needed a big hit. So basically, Close Encounters of the Third Kind saved Columbia Pictures. Spielberg was on them for a few years after that. Look, I want to finish the movie the way I originally envisioned it, the way I originally intended. They said to him that we'll give you the money. I think it was $1.5 million around the late 70s, early 80s. Says, you can film your extra scenes. Says, but we want to see inside the mothership. That's the only way we'll give you the money.
So it's a compromise.
He reluctantly agreed, and that's why he ended up with the special edition. And around 1980, he says himself that was a mistake. We shouldn't have seen inside the mothership. He didn't like that, and the audience didn't like it.
No.
It took away from the mystique of being inside the spaceship. So he was able then to go back, as you say, in the 20th anniversary, and keep the scenes that he refilmed back in the late 80s or late 70s, but take out that end part. And that apparently is the ultimate edition. And it's funny you should say there, John, about special editions and director's cuts and things like that. I seen an interview with Spielberg and James Cameron, and the fact that James Cameron makes extended cuts and brings out like director's cuts, and he actually attributed Spielberg for planting that kind of seed that you can go back and do that for your movies.
Huh, that's awesome. Yeah, because I always prefer to watch the director's cut of T2, so I didn't know that actually came from Spielberg. That's funny. That does make sense because the director's cut is definitely a combination of both the theatrical and the special edition. So it's definitely the definitive edition you should watch, and I recommend that one for sure. But I mean, I might have to just watch the theatrical cut just to see see with the missing scenes, because that's fascinating.
Yeah, just out of curiosity.
Yeah, because I know I've seen the special edition, because I agree, I just do not like them going on the mothership. You just didn't need to see it. It's completely unnecessary. I don't know who was asking for it. I think it's like one executive at Columbia being like, I really wish I could see the inside of the mothership. And he's like, well, you know what? He asked us to, he wants to actually finish the movie the way he intended it. He's like, well, make sure he puts in the mothership on the inside. I've been dying to see that for 3 years.
I've been dying to see it for 3 years. He's been thinking about that for 3 years.
Yeah.
I can see that spaceship. You know?
He's like, I'm not going to allow him. Don't give him the money unless he agrees to do the mothership.
Unless he agrees to show me what's inside that ship.
Yeah.
If he doesn't show me what's inside that ship, he's not getting the $1.5 million. Can you imagine?
It's the only thing that makes sense. I've never heard anyone say that they prefer that version in my entire life. Anything I've ever read about this movie, no one's ever said that they prefer the special edition.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I would go back and watch it. I think the reason I would watch the theatrical version is because I'm a purist sometimes like that. I'm kind of like, I want to see the version that people seen in the cinema. You know, that's the way I think about it sometimes. But I agree with you. We talked about this before we were going to do this podcast, and you were like, well, what version should we watch? And I looked it up, and I went, I think we should watch the director's cut. And then since then, I've seen that interview with Spielberg, and he said there's going to be no other cuts. That's a definitive cut. That's it. He's finished with it. And you're right. But know what I love as well, but it's not like Star Wars where we've lost the original versions. Like, you can sit and you can decide whatever one you want to watch.
Yeah.
And maybe if you want to watch, like, if you're a type of person that watches Close Encounters every year, you know, you can maybe watch the theatrical version this year and then the director's cut next year.
Yeah,
so it's good that we'll have them available to watch.
Yeah, I like it if they give you the choices. It always bothers me with Star Wars, you have no choice. But like movies like Blade Runner, like if you want to watch Blade Runner, there's like 4 cuts of Blade Runner. If you want to go back and watch the original theatrical cut, which most people agree isn't the definitive cut at all, but you do have it available to you. Same thing with Apocalypse Now. If you want to watch whatever cut of that movie, because there's 3 cuts of that now, you have your options, whatever one you prefer. And I'm always there if you want to give us the choices. You can pick whatever you want. It bothers the hell out of me that the Terminator 2 4Ks, which are awful, only have the theatrical cut, because I've always been a fan of the extended cut of that one.
I don't have T2 in 4K, but I do have the Studio Canal Blu-ray, which done the 4K.
Yeah, that's the same scan.
All the editions are on that. The version I have.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, they actually have a version on there, John, which has the alternative ending, and you can watch it with the alternative ending.
That ending is pretty definitive. The only thing I can never move past with that ending is Linda Hamilton's makeup.
Yeah, but it also gets me when she says Michael Jackson turned 50.
Nothing much happened. Michael Jackson turned 40.
Oh, yeah. Did he make 50?
I think he got there at 53.
Okay. Yeah, all right. Well, because I was going to say what age...
Or maybe she said 40.
Okay.
I can't remember. It's supposed to be 1987, isn't it?
Yeah, because August 29th, 1997 was the original Judgment Day before we delayed it until 2003.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
But
maybe she says Michael Jackson turned 40, because I think he died around, 52 or something? That was around the late...
Yeah, I guess it would make... Oh, you know what? If it's 1997, he would turn 40. That makes perfect sense. Yeah. He was born in 1957.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we put it together. We put our brains together.
There.
We got there.
That's Michael Jackson's age again. What year is he born?
I just remember when he died. It was I was working at where I was working at and everything. So I was like, that was 2010, 50. All right, we got there.
Yeah.
So.
But that's surprising that your 4K doesn't have the different versions on it. Your Terminator 2 4K.
I mean, I have two of them. Here, I'll show you. So this is actually my Close Encounters 4K. It's got, just because since we're doing that.
Yes.
So it's got the 4Ks, and it's got a Blu-ray, and then it's got a Blu-ray special features disc. So for everybody who doesn't get special features, you get a whole third disc of him here.
Yeah, it's the same as the Blu-ray that I have. No, it's not the same Blu-ray. That's the 40th anniversary edition you have there, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. But I have the special features is on this, but I think there's more special features on that one due to the 40th anniversary.
Yeah, they re-released, I think they made a new little documentary for the 40th anniversary or something that's on here, because they were showing it in theaters, and they were playing it before the movie. So, but you have, what does your T2s look like?
Yeah, my T2, so I bought this one here.
Oh, I thought
years ago. This is the ultimate high definition Terminator experience. This is the Skynet edition.
Skynet edition. I have that in a Blu-ray pack.
Yep, but this was the one that Studio Canal done. It's a 4K version, but this is just a Blu-ray.
Oh, okay.
But this basically has the theatrical version, the special edition, and then there's a version you can pick with the original ending. Which is why I'm surprised your 4K doesn't have that. Yeah,
this is the 4K, which is basically that version. If you look at similar box art, and it's done by Studio Canal. You can see it in the back right there, yeah. Somewhere.
It's the same. So I don't know why you don't have that.
Yeah, it's a 2-disc set, too. I wonder, you know what? Was it you who told me to check out the Blu-ray because you liked the Blu-ray cut of it? I think I can't remember if it was you or somebody else said that the Blu-ray that comes packed in with the 4K is the best version of the movie. And I'm wondering if that's why, because the Blu-ray version you have would be the Blu-ray version that's in here, and I've never watched it.
I would imagine that they do a 4K scan, converted the Blu-ray, so it's the same scan, it's just that in 4K.
Yeah, and the 4K is usually, if they ever have multiple cuts of the movie, the 4K will only be the theatrical cut, and then you have to watch the Blu-ray to get the other cuts. And I haven't put that Blu-ray in because this 4K is atrocious. So, but maybe I'll just check out the Blu-ray.
Check it out, because I'd imagine it'd be the same Blu-ray as this one.
Yeah, probably. It looks like, like I said, the covers they're identical. Yeah. Identical.
But I also have, where is it down here? There's that one there, John.
Oh, that's beautiful. That looks exactly like what I had. Very similar. I had it was called the Ultimate Cut or the Extreme DVD, but it came in a metal case. It looked very similar to that. I don't have it anymore. Matt does though.
Did you give that to Matt?
No, Matt and me, it's just I lost all of my... When I moved out of my mom's house, she had all my DVDs, and I don't know if she still has them or not, or if she has them in storage or something, but she had all my DVDs. I literally left with, like, a garbage bag full of clothes and all this, so, like, she has all that stuff, or she gave it to my... Well, I don't remember, but I had a ton of wrestling DVDs, too.
Yeah, wrestling ones. Well, that's the way the cover is, but what I actually like about it is that there's a booklet with it. I don't know if you got the booklet as well, so... It's kind of...
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's like an edition. You're like, I've never watched it in years, but it's like I'm gonna keep it because I like it.
Yeah, no, I wish I could go back and like that's one thing I don't get rid of. Like now, I don't get rid of stuff that's a special edition just because. But like back in the day, my mom has that stuff somewhere before I was 18. Then when I left, then I started my own stuff. Is there anything else you want to say about Close Encounters?
Because there's always something, because we talk about it so much. There's something in your head and then it goes back out again, and you're like, I should talk about that.
No, I know.
But,
That's why I wanted to make sure I brought up the special because I was like, we got to make sure we don't forget that because that's important.
yes, and when I was watching the making of earlier, we talked about the special edition, and I was like, oh, thank God, because I couldn't remember the differences. I wasn't 100% sure. Like, I showed you that poster, and I was going to read it, and I picked it around it. I'm so busy this week because that poster tells you the differences.
Yeah, it gives you like what scenes are in each one.
And stuff.
That's
awesome.
awesome.
There's even differences in the music as well.
That's crazy. Is there really?
Yeah, at the end when they play When You Wish Upon a Star or something as well.
Oh, you're right. I did read that. They did play I Wish You're right. I read that. Okay.
Yeah, there was a differences in the music at the end, but I have to start writing some of their stuff down because I remember the time and like it goes out of my head when we talking. There was a bit of dialogue towards the end of the movie as well, which I wanted to talk about. I can't remember what it is now.
Isn't it funny how that happens? Like you're watching the movie and you're like, I don't need to take that note. I won't forget. And then the next day you go and fuck, I forgot that.
yeah, exactly. There was dialogue and I told myself, I must bring that up. There's something towards the end.
Yeah, I do that all the time. I always think I'll remember like a joke that I want to put in a review. And then the next day I go to do the joke. I'm like, I can't remember it.
Yeah.
So
listen, see, to be honest, I don't think there's anything that kind of, like I said to you before in the message the other night, it's one of those movies that it's so impactful that I don't want to know how they've done it.
No, I get that completely. You don't want to know how, and it's not like in Jaws or like in Batman where there was a lot of like behind the scenes stuff. It seems like everything went pretty smooth in the making of. The only thing I read that was kind of unique was, which kind of I guess circles back to what you were saying about Columbia, is that they had to shoot some stuff in 1976 to like get a write down for taxes, and there really wasn't much, and I'm not too sure what it was even in the movie, but then they shot really most of it in 1977, but that was the only thing that really stuck out. Otherwise it sounds like everything went smooth, nothing broke, nothing like went wrong with Jaws. Everything seemed to go pretty well. They got it in under the budget. Like it had a good $20 million budget, so they were able to film it the way they wanted to. It's just like what you said, like Columbia wanted it out for 1977. It did, so it came out in the very tail end of the year, so it was important to them to get it out, I guess, because they had to have the income for their taxes for 1978. I'm not 100% sure how that works. I'm not a businessman.
Yeah, and Spielberg said himself that after he made Jaws, he says that this was so easy to make, but he says himself that if he hadn't have made Jaws and made Close Encounters, the Close Encounters would have been the hardest movie he'd ever made. So it just shows you that, as you said, it was plain sailing, but it was very difficult to kind of maybe put together from a point of view of special effects. There's a lot of those effects hadn't been done before, but he employed the best. He got the best in there to do the special effects and to do the production design and stuff like that, and do all the skip drawings and storyboards and things like that. But I mean, when I watched the making of, it shows you at the end they were basically just experimenting. They were doing an awful lot of experimenting for months on end about how the aliens would look, how they would come out of the spaceship, how they would interact with the humans. To the point where they're even thinking about even like getting mimes in to play the humans and to move slow, the speed getting the people who are the aliens to move really fast. So when they sped the film up, so the mimes looked like they were moving normal, the aliens were moving super fast. But all of that, it just didn't work. There was like a clip of like Richard Davis when he went down to the mothership, like being sucked up. He's no gravity. But they even cut that out because they just said it just didn't look right. So they did spend an awful lot of time and money just trial and error to try and make it look spectacular, try and make it look alien, not human. And that's the main about this movie. As much as like I love this movie, I love how it makes me feel. I love the emotions of it. I love the human drama. But I do think some of the alien effects again are a bit blurry. Like the big one that comes down with the big skinny, lanky arms and legs. To me, that just looks like a puppet. It looks horrible. I don't know what you think about that, John.
It's funny because I was going to say, I thought that this movie, for the most part, looks gorgeous. Like, great miniatures, great matte paintings, spectacular looking. But the aliens, it's like, and I read a lot of that stuff too. Like, they tried so much stuff for months to try and get the aliens to look like they wanted to, and it just wasn't working. So I'm guessing this was just them, like, throwing their arms up, like, okay, well, we'll just do this then. It's clearly just somebody in this. I think actually it's young girls in suits is what they ended up doing at the very end because they just like the movement.
Yes.
But like when I think of like alien effects, I think of this, and I think this is what a lot of people based like drawings of what they thought aliens would look like after this movie because it just looks so fake. And the aliens themselves, that's the one effect I bump into too. I don't like it. But I mean, it's such a minor part. It's like, all right, I understand. So I had the same exact
and I think that's
complaint.
what I'm saying. The whole story, the whole drama, the whole human story as well, because it's so good, and because like this film came out, was we've said 1977, almost 50 years ago. So I think for the most part, I think the effects hold up amazingly for a film that came out in 1977.
I agree. They definitely hold up well. All right, yeah, I definitely think most of this movie holds up well. I think it's fantastic as well. I think it's obviously we both think it's the second best Spielberg movie of all time, and it's one I'll be revisiting for the rest of my life for sure. I know you will, right, David?
Definitely 100%. I'm actually regretting that buying the 4K when it came out, so I'm definitely going to have to invest in that because I love this movie. And it is one that it's not one I would watch every year. It's not the type of movie I would watch again and again, like within the year or whatever, like a Jaws or something like that. But it's definitely one that I like to revisit every few years. I love it every single time I watch it.
That's so funny. I don't go back to this one every year too. This is like every 2 to 3 year for me. So, but every time I do go back to it, I love it. I just think it's like the family drama stuff. Definitely, it's definitely tougher to watch those kinds of stuff. It's not like very lighthearted like E.T. or even like Jaws, like in the sense that it's a very easy rewatch. But I do still love it, and I cherish this movie. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it here for us on the Let's Talk podcast. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode, and we will be back with another great film in a few weeks, and we will be seeing you around. So make sure you hit that like button, subscribe button, and just tell all your friends about us.